against AFL fans tonight. But welcome to Talking Hawks. I'm here with you tonight, Reese. How you going?
Mate, I'm going well. Now that the not-so-serious stuff as the grand final's over, now the serious stuff can begin and we can all talk about the Hawks again, which would be good.
That's it. Well, I reckon we'll have more than just a few Hawks fans joining and watching in. But, Talking Hawks, we're all about just connecting Hawks fans from around the world, having a bit of fun, but having some intelligent conversation about football and the Hawks that we love. So, special draft edition one tonight. So we're having a good look at a few other lads that are going to be nominating, and we've got the draft combine coming up. But we had a good look about 3 weeks ago, and so we're going to see tonight where there might have been some movements based on some other games, some other lads that we think are pretty handy, and clubs at different positions, how they are faring with their picks. Tim O'Brien brought up today, but we'll stick mostly to the draft upcoming. And Reese, our resident draft expert, mate, let's kick it off. So movements. We last looked at and some cracking highlights. If you haven't seen it, go back and have a look. We covered Finn Callaghan, Josh Sinn, Josh Gibcus, Maddie Roberts, Josh Godo, Judson Clarke, Maddie Johnson, Hugh Jackson. And Neil Erasmus. So of those, Reese, who has maybe moved a little bit in the last month for you?
Well, there's a couple that sort of moved out of our reach, and they're both Western Australian boys. Neil Erasmus looks like he's gone from potentially a slider to almost a top 10, certainly, especially top 12. So we can probably kiss goodbye Neil, which is a shame because he looks like he can play everywhere, but I'm sure he'll be a gun no matter where he ends up. I reckon St Kilda at 9 might be the watch there, but this isn't a St Kilda show. And unfortunately, my man in the draft, Maddie Johnson, looks like he's rising up the ranks with good performances at WA level, which doesn't surprise me, but he looks like he could be a late teens pick, sort of a 15 to 20. So if at best, he would be our pick 21. And if he's there at 21, I think we absolutely take him. He's the exact same size and weight as the Bont was when he was drafted. I'm not saying he is the Bont, but having that height and body shape in the midfield for years to come would be absolutely unreal. But those two boys look like they're moving up in draft ranks. And a guy that we touched on 3 weeks ago, Maddie Roberts, looks like he could be going from first-round selections to second-round selections. And it's not due to poor form, but he's had a bit of a dodgy leg for a little bit now. And as we know, during COVID times, the most reliable you can be is being available, and he hasn't been available, but he's a ball winner. He would be a genuine steal at 21. The Fox Footy Power Rankings had him at 19, and I'd be more than happy for a couple of clubs to miss out on Maddie Roberts so we could get him at 21. But a little bit of movement, mate, but I think there's more important talk. Not more important talk, but I think there's a lot of talk about the Hawks improving their draft hand, which would be really cool. But at this stage, we've got 3 in the top 24. And fingers crossed they are the blueprint to further success under Sammy Mitchell.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, look, hopefully even just Sam, the connection, he might hail out of the West. You don't know who's been under their eyes or the connection. So let's see what happens. So Hawks got three picks in the top 25. There's only 2 other clubs that are close to that. So we've got Gold Coast and the Tigers. I might put a link, I will, in the descriptions to Law's Big Footy. He updates it constantly with the picks and the points. So if you're a footy geek, love all that stuff and want to know what's going on as picks move around, because we're going to talk a few scenarios, or maybe at least one tonight. Do you improve the position? What does that look like? So there's phases through this draft and trade period that we'll touch on. But that all kicks off this week with the draft combine on Wednesday for 2 days. So clearly the Hawks are looking at some speed there, Reese. All Hawks fans are going to be watching the beat test and all the sprints, surely.
Yeah, the 20 meter sprint, absolutely. And when we've got such hardworking guys in the midfield, and none more so than Tommy Mitchell, maybe a line breaker is absolutely the one to go for, and that's why a guy like Hugh Jackson came up in our selections about 3 weeks ago, because I feel like he's possibly a sleeper, and he would absolutely bring that sort of outside dash if Finn Callaghan's off the board at 5, and it looks like he will be. I think Adelaide might be the go for our man Finn, unfortunately, but the Crows will improve with getting Jordan Dawson as well, but the Hawks will definitely be looking out for not only speed on the ball, but speed off the ball as well. So plenty to look at, and that's not just pick 5, but that's 21 and 24 as well. Sam has said that he's looking for players that are A-grade at something, and when you look at our midfield, we've got elite accumulators. We do probably lack a penetrating kick, and it sounds like I'm talking about Hugh Jackson a lot. Hope he's listening somewhere, just so he knows that he's getting the love. But yeah, I think the Hawks will be looking for elite kicks in the draft, and it worked well for us during one dynasty. Why not another?
Yeah, for sure. So let's go to those other couple of teams well poised. So the Tigers and Gold Coast. Do you want to maybe just touch on? So there's two father sons. It's going to just move everyone's picks down to essentially. That's the short. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the short explanation, absolutely. But the positive out of that, as I accidentally knocked my mic, but the positive out of that is they're not on anyone else's draft board either. So it's not like teams are trying to bid up to get, North's pick 1 or GWS's pick 2, because Nick Dacos and Sam Darcy are going to go. Fingers crossed North do the right thing and make those clubs pay the maximum amount of points that they can to pick them up. So it'll affect future drafts, which is only good for the Hawks. So 100%. We've got to look at it like we're still getting the 5th best kid in the country, because everyone's choosing from them. So, it's people can kick up a stink if they like about it. But if only Dean Anderson had played a few more games of the Hawks, we'd have Noah and we wouldn't be complaining in the slightest. So we'll take it as it comes. Come on, Dina.
Ouch. That wasn't scripted, that one. That just hurt.
All right. Sorry about
that. So look, let's talk about the improving the draft hand. So where we've got certain picks, we've got maybe that gap. You were talking before the show. If we had one in the 30s, it would be nice, as he touched on. What would you like to see us come up with? If we could wave the magic wand, we're keeping 5. From there,
I would love to. I would love to see us try to get, because I'm not a big believer in getting rid of 21 or 24. I think the points add up to pick 8. And I don't think that's going to be on the table from, let's pick 8, Fremantle, I think. So I don't think Freo will part with that. But I feel like we're going to need to get something, whether it's Tim O'Brien's compensation as a free agent, which would get us, I think, 38, or whether we give up, can we get a pick in the 30s for a Hanrahan, for example? We definitely get better for Gunners, but common knowledge is it doesn't look like Gunners is going anywhere. But if we can get that sort of a pick in the 30s, we could probably ledger that with 21 and move up, but getting rid of 21 and 24 for one other kid, sure, we could probably get someone like a Sonsie who looks like he's going in the teens. It's been spoken about quite a bit, but giving up 21 and 20, you're giving up 2 kids for 1, and the percentage for playing 200 games past pick 11, I think, is very similar for the 20s as it is the teens. So you're taking a pretty big gamble, but if Sam Mitchell's as big a fan as Tyler Sonsie as it looks like, is that the go? We don't know. But as I sit here right now, my magic wand would be, maybe TOB's compensation can be ledgered with a pick 24 to potentially move up. Or we would have to look at, potentially an O'Meara or a Mitchell, even though it looks like they're set on staying. And I'm not saying we need to get rid of these boys, but I struggle to see how we're going to get a pick in the teens if it's not getting rid of a star or leveraging the picks that we've already got. And I'm not a fan of leveraging the picks that we've got, but each to their own. And we can agree to disagree, any sort of fans out there, but 21 to 24 for a pick in the teens for mine is a gamble that we don't need. I'd rather have 2 swings than 1, but we'll see.
Yep. Beautiful. All right. And you've touched on the unrestricted free agent aspect, and there's a diluting compensation component to it. We could potentially get a pick for Tim, but we may not as well.
It's
depends on what happens.
100%, and it's all dependent on the salary. So we got pick 42 for Isaac Smith, which is good for us. I think it was Brocky that we ended up picking at 42. So tick so far, and that's no disrespect for Izzy, but you look at our wing depth versus our small forward depth post Punky, you could probably say that was a tick for the Hawks, even though Izzy was good at the Cats, but they didn't win the flag, so they can get stuffed as far as we're concerned. up yours, pension home, as they say. But I don't know why I'm going on this rant. Let's get back to the Hawks. So, TOB salary.
You just want to chase them. You want to show off your speed, chasing the wheelchairs down the highway.
Yeah, mate, that's it.
Like,
yeah,
anyway,
if they're making me look quick, you're in trouble, I reckon. So, but
you touch on an interesting thing because it is about the salary, but it's also the age. So at Timmy's age, Timmy O's, should that scenario unfold, you'd think he'd be going because it's a lifestyle decision, maybe an extra year or two, and maybe a little bit of extra dollars than the Hawks might have looked at. So,
well, Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide looks like the club that they're interested in, and Port Adelaide are closer to a flag than us. So he could go flag chasing. Didn't work very easy, but each to their own. But if someone came to like us as a Hawthorn fraternity and someone said, here's pick 38, which where his salary sits looks like is where it'll end up, would we take pick 38 for Timmy O? Probably. And I'm not saying that as he seems to be the Hawthorn whipping boy, but he doesn't look like he's in our tall forward plans for the future. Our backline situation looks absolutely amazing with Jars and Sicily coming back. And we know Gunners would potentially take his spot forward. So for pick 38 is probably fair. I don't begrudge Timmy for staying. I don't begrudge Timmy for going. But if we're going back to our improving our draft hand, then potentially Timmy O moving on to Alberton mightn't be the worst thing in the world. And as Sammy says, he wants to target the draft, and there's different ways to get a draft pick, and that could be one of them for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, look, so many different iterations, and looks like the senior guys, look, we'll do the show on trade options, but, who we might target. But, look, obviously conversations get had. There's a couple of guys still yet to have their contracts put in front of them and signed and whatnot. So Ollie as well. Let's just see Ollie Hanrahan. Let's see what happens there. So, all right, let's just jump in then to have a look at one or two of these boys. So Josh Ward, kick me off, Race.
Mate, love him. Now, my love for Finn probably shouldn't go understated if everyone's kept up to date with all the trade talks that I've been a part of. Finn Callaghan, absolutely. We've got Finn Mcginnis on the list. I can understand why that might have seemed a touch confusing. I'm a fan of Finn Mcginnis as well, but I think Finn's going to be off the board. I kind of have to resign myself to that fact now. I think Adelaide are really into him. And I can't blame them. The kid's going to be a star. So you look at a Josh Ward who his size doesn't necessarily tell the best picture. I think he's the exact same height as Jimmy Warple. So you're not getting the size, but you're getting class around the ball. The kid's tough. They reckon he's ready to play senior footy straight away, and he's a beautiful kick inside 50. And that's, I think the ball use is something that Hawthorn fans are wanting and are needing. And considering Will Day is probably a full season away from developing into a midfielder, chucking him into the centre square might be a little bit risky now, given the fact that he has had some muscular injuries, might be a bit of a struggle. So getting a midfielder in for mine is the way to go. Joshy Ward looks like he's at that mark and would fulfill a need as a good user inside 50, which it looked like the Hawks were lacking at times during the year.
Yep. Okay. So, look, I think you're going to have Day out on the wing. I don't think we'll see him in the midfield too much. He can sleep, he can dream, he can do everything in the gym. I don't think we're going to see him heaps on the inside in the midfield. Love he will, but save it for another day. Keep you healthy on the park for now. All right, Josh, Rachelle.
Yeah, good time to be a Josh in this draft. We've covered, I reckon, all of them. Almost all of them. Good time to be a Josh. But yeah, Josh Rachelle, Caulfield Grammar boy. Kind of being slept on a little. He's kind of around the 9-10 mark, and whether that's fair or not, I know COVID has probably hampered, well, not probably, definitely has hampered the seasons of the Victorian lads, but for guys that ooze class, he idolises Toby Green, and I'm not one to say he's going to be this or he's going to be that, but a half forward that can kick goals, and what I like about him is he's really good overhead mark as well, and when you think back to the prime Hawthorn premiership years, even guys like Punky, Puopolo, Cyril, these guys, even Liam Shields, who still is to this day, really good overhead marks as well, and really strong in the contest. And Josh Rachelle's certainly one of those. He probably is a reach at pick 5, but if the Hawks love him, I would absolutely have him on board. Really smart around the goals, and one scout noted that he's one of the best set shots that he's seen as an underage player. So don't sleep on Josh Rachelle, that's for sure.
There you go. See, do you think, there's a few fans sort of commenting, do you think we're prioritising Victorian boys? Is that something we'd be doing? Because COVID interrupted season last year, limited Vics, a smaller draft in terms of the number of players picked. So it's a deeper pool in theory. Now going into this year, a year older, a year on, are we looking to keep it safe in this unknown COVID environment and more Victorian boys? Is there a factor at all?
Yeah, look, it definitely can be. And there's so much uncertainty around, COVID, as we know, in society, let alone footy. And you've looked at, Jordan Dawson's on the move, Mabior Chol's on the move, and they look like home-based ventures more so than coin. I know Jordan Dawson will get more money at Adelaide than he will at Sydney, but he wanted to go home first. Mabior Chol wants to go home. There was reports Lachie Neale wants to go home. The go-home factor is going to be huge, especially amongst these young players. So it would not surprise me at all if the Hawks did go down a Vic path, although Hawthorn haven't really been a club that have lost players due to the go-home factor. When you think of guys that have left, Izzy stayed in state. So I think we've got a culture that'll keep players. Denver looked really comfortable this year being in Victoria. So I think it might be something that the Hawks look at 21 and 24 potentially. They might be looking at some Victorian kids that are slept on, but pick 5, I think they're going to go for the kid that they love the most, and I can't wait to find out who that is.
Yeah, look, touch base with Denver. He went to the granny, and I was glad to hear that because I just wanted to soak it in. He's such a competitor. If you ever get to meet him and talk to him, it just can't. It oozes out of him. He's just he will have a crack at winning anything. So I'm glad that would have just stoked the fire in our boy Denver.
Yeah, he absolutely would have looked at it and gone, "Oh, I want to be there so bad one day." So I can't wait till he is
in front of his home crowd. But he's look, hopefully working hard. Here's another factor from Justin.
There you go. I'm on board. I'm with you.
All right,
I'm sold.
So Wanganeen-Milera, Wanganeen-Milera. One more time. You've got some thoughts on him?
Yeah, look, solves a lot of problems. Think he's more of a winger than a midfielder, personally. But geez, he oozes speed, and it does sound a bit monotonous perhaps at times. But I think most Hawks fans know that we probably don't need any more contested balls. That's for sure. Whether it's in the midfield or even up forward. But Wanganeen-Milera is getting a lot of interest up north. So I reckon by the time we get to pick 21, he'll be off the board. But he's going to be a nightmare for opposition wingmen to come. He's still got a good size and a good frame. So he's not like a lightweight 18-year-old kid who's being pushed out to a wing. He's got a footy-ready physique that's ready to dominate. So gamble responsibly, but maybe a little rising star nod there, Matt, for next year for anyone out there. But no more than $5, guys. Let's be reasonable.
Now I've got to write all of this in the post edit, just in the small print, mate.
Absolutely.
All right, Tyler Sonsie. Let's just quickly touch on that one again. I've seen some Hawks fans just really saying it's a done deal, under Sam's nose, a Box Hill. You see a little bit differently, do you?
Yeah, I do. And I really want to make this clear to a few comments that I've seen. I do not hate and have any sort of negative feelings towards Tyler Sonsie at all. I just want to make that perfectly clear because I know when it can come out and say that maybe he's not the best fit or something like that, people think there's a personal problem. There's nothing personal between me and Tyler Sonsie. He wouldn't know me from a bar of soap. I don't really know him from a bar of soap. I can only go off other people's ideas and my thoughts on what I've seen. He could not have had a better audition for Hawthorn fans with 24 touches and 2 goals, which is what he had at Box Hill. No one can deny that. That's on paper.
Solid.
But the sentence that I keep reading in every sort of draft scouting report that I can find is scouters are lamenting the lack of continuity with COVID, which he can't help, but a somewhat lack of consistency in game. Now, at pick 5, you're looking at someone that you want to book in, that you can develop into a guy that is going to play wonderful football for times to come. Is Tyler Sonsie the answer at 5? I don't believe so. If we were talking about...
So fading in and out of games, as in he's present and then he goes missing for parts. Is that?
Definitely can be, but also a lack of consistency perhaps across a season as well. And at pick 5, I'm not saying you have to go with the safe option, but at pick 5, you got to look at a guy and go, right, he's set for 22 games. It's not often that you take a pick 5 thinking he's a project player. We remember when Denver was drafted, Hawthorn were really keen on getting him in the system as soon as possible when that was announced. If we could leverage the picks we were talking about earlier in the show and getting a pick in the teens, I will 100% build the Tyler Sonsie bandwagon. I'll build it. All the fans can jump on and we'll head to the promised land. Right. I just can't see it happening at pick 5. But a pick in the teens, absolutely.
Enough said. All right. Toby Conway.
Yeah, the sleeper of the ruckman. So the ruckman have been dominated by Melbourne's next generation academy player, Mac Andrew, who Matt Rendell today on Trade Radio reckons GWS are really into him, which I know Mummy's retiring, but they've still got Matt Flynn and Kieran Briggs down there as ruck depth. So that's really interesting.
Matt Rendell had some interesting things to say.
For mine. He's an interesting fella. I'd love to have a chat with him one day. Okay. But anyway, moving on. So... he's sort of been the only ruck that's being talked about. I know Hawks fans want to have a look at him at pick 5. If Jonathan Ceglar moves on, I know we've already delisted Keegan Brooksby, but for ruckman, you have to wonder where Ceglar would fit in that because McAvoy's still captain. Ned Reeves looks like he's much loved by the Hawks down there. And if you introduce Ceglar, who took Reeves' spot, as we remember when he was injured and kept it, and then you're bringing in Mac Andrew at pick 5, something's got to give there. So until Jonathan Ceglar's sort of on the trade block or looks like he's moving on, I'm staying away from Mac Andrew at 5. And Toby
Let's just hold your thought. So Hawks play the cards generally close to the chest. Not a lot gets out. Clubs will not. Clubs will ask and inquire. Ceglar would be, a commodity that a few different clubs would look at and be interested in. Should he go? Where are you? Do you think the Hawks would then reorient? Mac Andrew's not going to probably last outside the 20s because the NGA rule has changed this year. And if he gets to 21, then the D's get him. But other clubs can have a crack in the 20s if he's up to pick 20. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, no, correct. In the top 20, Melbourne don't hold any rights over him. Once, at the end of the first, to pick 20. So apologies, I was thinking of something else. So up until pick 20. So Hawthorn, if Mac Andrew was still on the board, spoiler alert, he won't be, but let's just say he is for the sake of explaining. So if he was still available at 21, we would have to bid on him and then pay the draft points, and we would offer up our draft points, and then Melbourne would decide, do Melbourne draft him or do Melbourne let him go? Now, for what it's worth, I'm not actually sure Melbourne would draft him. With Gawn and Luke Jackson being probably the best 1-2 punch in the competition, they would let Mac Andrew go, but he's going to be off the board, and it would shock me if he even got to 10. So if we want Mac Andrew, he's going to have to go at 5.
So in the hypothetical, though, that Ceglar might be going, is Hawthorn trying to get a pick in the teens, early teens, if they're wanting to have a crack at Mac Andrew? Will they get him early teens if we could get a pick there?
No, we wouldn't get Mac in the early teens, but if Jonathan Ceglar was traded, we would probably go for Mac at 5 if he's still at us. There's talk that GWS might be interested in. But if we can get Mac at 5, then that team pick probably becomes a Tyler Sonsie, a Neil Erasmus that we've already touched on. Okay, so that really would make strategy. Yeah, that would really make our draft hand really interesting if we could get, potentially Mac Andrew, Tyler Sonsie, and then someone in the 20s as well. That really would accelerate things. So fingers crossed. Brisbane are looking for a ruckman. They've looked at Darcy Fort from Geelong. Jonathan Ceglar's got that finals experience.
Yep.
We know what aging players can do to a potential contending list, so maybe keep an eye on there. But, Toby Conway as well. If Mac Andrew's off the board, Geelong Falcons ruckman. Elite tap ruckman. Now, we know Ned Reeves is kind of the same in that regard, but a lot of hype on Toby. Unfortunately, he's another Victorian that's been affected by a lack of playing time in COVID times. But if Jonathan Ceglar does go and Mac Andrew is off the board, look out for Toby Conway at pick 24 as a replacement.
Interesting. All right. Wow. So fans are getting a few questions in here. Do we want to? Do you know much on? Here we go. Jesse Motlop.
Yeah, small forward type. I believe he's Daniel's son. Port Adelaide and North Melbourne I love the DGB episode, but the kid I'm interested in, Jesse Motlop. Yeah, so Motlop and Brockman together, I mean, geez, how frightening would that be for opposition fans, for opposition players, sorry. I mean, look, fans will probably be worried about those two boys as well. Would be a really good option at 21 or 24, I'm not denying that. I'd probably have, when it comes to smalls in the forward line, I'd probably have Judson Clarke first, Jesse Motlop second, but one to watch for sure, and we'll get to see more and more of him. Fingers crossed a little bit more of him as the carnival continues, because the WA and South Australian boys get to keep playing. So definitely one to keep an eye out for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Stephen's just joined us asking, you kind of didn't quite answer this. Do you do those 2 second rounders to move up for a first rounder?
Geez, it depends how far we move up. I said before that I'm not a fan. As I said, you'd be looking at, do you package them together and something else to go for Gold Coast pick 3, which we know is on the table. Now, if someone could say to me, you can get pick 3 without giving up pick 5, I'd almost do it with anything. Wow. Do you give up 21, 24, and a Gunston, for example, for pick 3? I'd do that in a heartbeat. I don't think Gold Coast would do that, but hey, if they're interested, that'd be fantastic.
And then if Finn Callaghan is potentially in your reach, if you got to pick 3.
Yeah, he would be, because North will take Horn Francis, GWS will do what they do, and we'd get Finn. So the road to Finn, there you go, would be great. He probably doesn't want to get drafted to us because he'd be worried about me. I assure you, Finn, I'm a good guy. It's fine.
All right. So did you cover off Toby Conway?
Yeah, so Geelong Falcons tap ruckman. Scouters are really impressed with the way he moves, got good endurance. His drafting report does remind me of Mac Andrew a bit, but the difference is Scouters keep talking about Mac Andrew as if he's the new Luke Jackson. He's a good ruckman that can do other things. And I think with Sam Mitchell's philosophy is you need to do one thing at an A or A+. Conway's A+ is his tap work. What's Mac Andrews' A+? Is it his endurance? Do you back endurance for a top 5 pick? I'm not sure. But if we have a ruckman spot, I would probably bet we'd go for a Conway before Mac. But hey, I wouldn't be disappointed with getting either of those boys. But Toby Conway is one that I think we might look out for.
All right. We'll throw this one up here.
Draper. Love Arlo Draper more out of those two boys. Campbell Chester looks like he's a halfback wingman type, and we've got a fair few amount of those. Arlo Draper, big fan of. And if injuries are going to cause him to drop at 21, I don't think he's going to be at 21. If he is at 21, I mean, I know I've said it about a few players so far. Draft night is going to be an interesting one for me, but geez, if he's at 21, you'd have to be brave to not go with him, surely. He's got X Factor written all over him, Desalo. And it's a good name too. I like it. Yeah. Anyway,
pronouncing that. We should do some commentary of games, Reece. I think maybe we should have
not we should. We definitely need to.
All right. Give us a like if you want to see that, or us to dream that up and make that happen. We do have a few picks later on. You did have one outsider. Just before we do, if you are enjoying our content, please subscribe. It helps us out with YouTube and being able to, the algorithms, all of that jazz. We want to be able to produce more content. So give us a like and a subscribe. So wrapping up, Reece, your outsider, Cooper Murley.
Murley, yeah, big Cooper. So another small forward type. I'm of the opinion that we're not, when it comes to 5, 21, 24, we're not going to draft 2 of the same type. I don't think we need to. I think all Hawthorn fans can probably know that we're covering 3 different spots on the ground would be really cool. But if we don't go down the small forward type, Cooper Murley looks like a kid with plenty of footy IQ, which Sam Mitchell will love. Underrated pace. There's a couple. I think there's a clip out there of showing him absolutely burning off 2 opponents, running on a half-forward flank, which is good to watch. Decent kick on both feet, and he's one of those ones that aren't being talked about. I mean, knowing now he'll probably get picked up in the 30s and we'll miss out. But when it comes to 56, there has to be guys that fall. We've seen it so many times. So if Cooper Murley's sort of still on the board when we hit sort of pick 45, 46, maybe it'll be worth staying up to see who we get at 56. But when it comes to sort of 62, and I think we've got 88 and 96, I'm not sure too many Hawks fans will be watching up to pick 88, probably barring me, because I need way more of a social life, but that's probably more of a me problem than a draft problem.
I think we've got 78. So it could
78, is it? Okay. 78. Yeah, it'd be James Hurd.
But look, you heard it here first. Reece blowing his own trumpet. He's mentioned player, and maybe he'll go in the 30s now instead of. That's all right.
Not because of, it's a jinx, mate. I'm not blowing myself up. Let me tell you. Goodness me.
Finally, Stephen Camilleri mentioned Vincent Adduci. Definitely would be a good rookie pick. There are different phases of the draft period, which we'll go over in another show. But yeah, the Dooch would be a great pickup for any club, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be noted as well. If Jack Gunston is on the table, you look at Fergus Greene, who was happily kicking bags at times in the VFL. If the Hawks want to go after a like-for-like replacement, they could be having them in their own backyard. And Fergus has got really good hands, and he's a beautiful set-shot kick as well. So another Box Hill player to look out for.
Brilliant. All right. Well, that's the latest wrap on this AFL draft period. Reece, thank you for all of your research, your time, and just pouring over too much content. We'll try and get another show out to you all soon. Thanks for joining us. Any parting thoughts, Reece?
I encourage all Hawk fans, especially when it comes to draft night. There are talks that the AFL are going to decrease time between picks, which for the average fan geek like myself who likes to watch all of it, that'll be good for my bedtime. But it also means that we'll get at least those first 3 picks out of the way relatively quickly, and we'll be able to welcome in some new Hawks. So fingers crossed that it is on Fox or KO, so more Hawks fans can get it in front of the TV, perhaps instead of their computers or their phones. And let's welcome in these new Hawks with open arms, I say.
Yep, they're following the same format as last year. The first 18 picks will be on the first day, and then picks 19 to the duration. To the rest will be day 2. So we'll keep you all posted. The NAB Draft Combine Wednesday this week and Thursday. So keep an eye out and let's get some speedsters, Hawks. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a good one.
Let's do it. Thanks Matt. Appreciate it. See you, Hawks fans.
Cheers. Bye.